Say, cuz, y'all know what it is, man. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get into this topic. Yo, what is though? It's your boy, TheRealJerel, back with another one. And man, this is a good topic I'm about to get into today. Man, I just saw another little clip from Daylight, the battle rapper. Shout out to Daylight, man. Look, he asked a question, right? He said, where does the Jewish people come from? Where were they at before Germany? What was they doing before the Holocaust? Well, Daylight, this is my kind of subject. This is what I like to talk about. So I'm about to hit y'all with something that's real. You know what I'm saying? So if you follow me, you know what I'm saying, on what's going on, some of y'all might know, some of y'all might read, some of y'all might study. But if you like what I'm about to do and say, subscribe and share. It's about to get popping. So to answer your question, Daylight, from what I know and understand, and I'm gonna play a clip from a church that I watch, in the TN2. I'm gonna play a couple clips, you know what I'm saying? I might just play the whole thing. Um, Hope I don't get flagged for it. I shouldn't, because the pastor's really great, man, and he's a great teacher. So maybe, gotta, give him some mercy or something not to strike me. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so Daylight, before Germany, the Jews, they did a lot of sinning. They did, a lot of sinning against God, and what happened was they had brought judgment upon themselves when they was worshiping idol gods in Israel. Okay, Moses freed them. Moses parted the Red Sea, taking them to the promised land. Moses didn't make it to the promised land himself. But what happened was, once the Jews continued to move on, God asked them not to do certain things, not to mingle with certain people, and, not to worship idol gods, not to ask about how do these people worship their gods and everything. So, man, that's just from what I can remember and what I know. But I'm going to play something, and then as I go, things will start coming back to me, and then I'm going to stop it and I'm going to talk about it. So let's get into it.
It's Wednesday night, and we're teaching through the Bible on Wednesday night. We have been in the Old Testament for over 3 years. We went through the book of Genesis. Took about 2.5 years to go through it, and you don't exhaust any part of the Bible. And we went through Genesis, and we saw that we went from Adam. Let me erase this up here. We went from Adam all the way to Joseph. We start with Adam, and Adam has a son there in Genesis, the 5th chapter, 5. This is the bloodline of God through Adam, starting with Adam and going to his son Seth. Adam, well, these things are not working right. You'll excuse me. I'm going to have to get me a pen that's going right here. Adam had a son named Seth. Seth means substitute. Substitute. He was a substitute for Abel. As it is the custom among the Jews, a surviving son would take the place of his brother, and the firstborn son would be raised up in his brother's name. We find that all through the Old Testament. So Seth takes the place of Abel. So this is actually Abel's bloodline. That's what it is. Israel is Abel's bloodline. Of course, we know that Cain slew Abel. And you go down through Seth and Enosh, and you go on to Canaan and Mahalaleel, and you get on down to Jared. Jared is the 6th from Adam. And then you get to Enoch, the 7th from Adam. And you go on to Enoch's son Methuselah, the oldest man to live in the Bible, 969 years.
That's a
Then
long time.
Methuselah has a son named Lamech. Lamech, and Lamech's son is Noah. Noah. And Noah
Follow the line. Follow the line.
has three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Out of Japheth will come the Gentile or Caucasian race. And the Caucasus Mountains is between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Up here, those that mountain range.
So, from what you all have heard so far, now you see where the Caucasian race supposedly comes from, right? So, he's going to go more into detail and explain to you why Japheth started the Caucasian race, the Gentiles. Let's go.
Right there is the Caucasus Mountains. The word Gog, Caucus, comes from co, and they hardened the consonant to Gog. Gog. So the land of Gog and Magog, which is the ancient enemies of God, is here between the Caspian and the Black Sea. Well, Shem was the one that was blessed. The Bible says, "Blessed be the Lord God of Shem." That Canaan, the son of Ham, will be the servants of Shem. Well, the Semitic race is the Shemites, and the Canaanites, which is where the land of Israel is, these will serve the sons of Shem, and we get the word Semitic from that. So Shem carries on this lineage, and the Hamitic race, this is the black race out of Egypt and Ethiopia here.
Okay, Hebrew Israelites, this is definitely for you all. So pay attention to what the man is saying to you guys, because you guys, y'all got a lot of stuff all twisted and mixed up and confused. So to some of what you guys are saying is true to a certain extent, but keep watching.
Somebody asked me yesterday, said, well, where did all of these dark-skinned people come from? Only God knows that. Now, sociologists will give you all kinds of speculation, and some believe it was possible that God made the black man, made Cain's lineage dark because he was going to go into a country where he needed something to protect him. Now, a black man, I've got a dear brother that's part of our ministry over in Greensboro, North Carolina. He's a black man. He's got a degree in biochemistry, and his name is Henry Ramey. Henry's extremely intelligent. He studied this. He said, the black man has a thinner skin than the white man. The white man has got a layer under there, and it's perhaps God made this situation. It's certainly because God is adapting men to certain areas according to their skin. A white man cannot take the heat that the black man can take, and the black man cannot take the cold that the white man can take. I noticed I've had a lot of black folks here that will say, I'm cold when it's 72 degrees, and I'll say it's comfortable. And Henry said he was studying this. There's a difference in the structure. So possibly that's where this comes from, and we believe that one of the descendants of Cain, and I'm not going to go into it right now, Cain, who is not in the lineage of God, his lineage is in Genesis, the 4th chapter. The lineage of God is in the 5th chapter, and the Gentiles will come out of Cain's lineage, and that's the all flesh that God's going to pour out of His Spirit on in the last days of the last 2,000 years, from Acts all the way till the end. Now,
Let me stop it right there real quick. So, excuse me. So y'all hear what he's saying, right? He's saying that when the Gentiles take over, right? The Gentile rule, the Gentiles will receive the Spirit. All flesh, not just the Hebrew Israelites, not just the regular Israelites over there in Israel, but all. Continue.
I'm going to not get on this. I can stay on this all night. So Shem's lineage is there in Genesis, the 11th chapter. His son Arphaxad, and then you go through Serug and Reu and Peleg and on down to Terah, Abraham's father. And then Abraham has a son named Isaac. Isaac has a son named Jacob. And Jacob's name is changed to Israel in Genesis, the 32nd chapter. And Jacob has 12 sons, and each one of them has a tribe. And those tribes become the nation of Israel. And you can see over here where that Joshua led the children of Israel into the promised land after 40 years in the wilderness, and divided up the land of Canaan into different areas for the sons of Jacob, who became a tribe, each one of them, Judah and Simeon and Reuben and Gad and Benjamin and Ephraim and Dan. And Manasseh there was an East Manasseh and a West Manasseh. Manasseh is the firstborn of Joseph, the 11th son of Jacob. But the blessing goes to Ephraim concerning the inheritance of Israel. And you got Issachar, Zebulun, and Asher up here. Now, this is all Galilee up here. All right. Then where we are, God has promised this land. He promised the land unto Abraham. He promised it to Abraham, and then to Isaac. Abraham in Genesis, the 17th chapter. He tells.
So the Muslims feel like because they've been on that land for so many odd years, that's why they fighting over it right now. You know, it was never really promised to them. It was promised to Abraham. So, but I'm going to keep going. Let y'all see.
Him in Genesis, the 12th chapter, he's going to give him a land, and he's going to be his God. God just picks out Abraham out of all the sons of Shem. There's all these other sons that came out of this same lineage. Well, why did God pick Abraham out of this lineage? He wanted to. That was his arbitrary choice. It's just like he chooses us. He's chosen us in him before the foundation of the world. If God is God, he can do what he wants to do, can't he? Our God sits in the heavens. He hath done whatsoever he hath pleased. Don't question me, he says. So he picks Abraham and says, I'm going to be your God to a particular lineage. And then he gives that, in Genesis 17, he gives the land to Abraham. In the same chapter, he gives it to Isaac. In the 28th chapter of Genesis, he gives it to Jacob and changes Jacob's name to Israel in the 32nd chapter. So all these sons, this becomes Israel. Well, he says, I'll be your God, you'll be my people there in Genesis 17, but you have to obey me. So we get down to Jacob, and he's got his 11th son is Joseph. Due to the jealousy of his brothers, there in the 37th chapter of Genesis, Joseph is sold into Egypt, and Joseph is going to be there a long time. Joseph in Egypt, there in 37, and you end the book of Genesis in Genesis, the 50th chapter, where Joseph dies.
So this is one of the ways how the black man could consider themselves an Israelite, you know, at that time, because Joseph was sent to Egypt, to Africa. So you could say, you know, this man here, he didn't, you know, mingle with some of the women, and, you know, probably had some babies and so forth and so forth. So this is how the black man becomes a part of the whole thing. I'm going to continue.
In Egypt, and while he's there, he becomes second in command only to Pharaoh. He's the most powerful man in Egypt. He is the picture of Christ. And when he's in Egypt there, he calls for his father and his brethren, and they come over there. His father's Jacob, and then in that 48th chapter, it says it comes time that Israel must die. Speaking of Jacob, he's called Israel. So he's going to die. He dies in that 49th chapter, and then they mourn for him in the 50th chapter, and which takes us to the end of the book. And Joseph dies, and Joseph says, don't leave my bones in Egypt. Take them out when you go out. Well, when you get over here to Exodus, the first chapter, in the first chapter, there's 400 years that they are in bondage. You don't get into the bondage till Exodus 1. Now, Exodus 50 is going to overrun into Genesis 50 is going to overrun or blend with Exodus 1. We don't know exactly what happened during that time period because there's no record of it. We know that in Exodus, the first chapter, the Pharaoh rises up that does not know the great things and how Joseph had saved Egypt. I believe he knew about it, but he didn't know Joseph in the sense that Joseph had saved Egypt during the great famine, and those were the dreams that Joseph interpreted. And Joseph says, you need to appoint a man that's an honest man. And Pharaoh said, who but you, because you won't bow to me, and we'll appoint you to be over. And you'll be head of everything except my household. So you get into Exodus, the first chapter, and they're placed in bondage in Egypt. They're in bondage, but they're placed in bondage. They're in Egypt. They're placed in Exodus, the first chapter. In the second chapter, Moses is born, and Moses is of the tribe of Levi. Levi is the third son of Jacob, Levi. And Moses has an older brother named Aaron. And out of Aaron will come the high priest of Israel. You can be a Levite, which is the priesthood, but you won't be a high priest unless you come out of Aaron's loins. Even Moses can't do the high priest. The high priest would do all of the work in the temple of God. It was the same thing as the tabernacle in that picture over there. Here's the veil of the temple. Here's the Ark of the Covenant. That's what Indiana Jones was looking for. Well, he can save his time because the ark was sprinkled, and inside the ark was the law written on tables.
So let me just pause that right there real quick. So if y'all notice, a lot of the movies that they make are based off biblical stories. You know, like he said, Indiana Jones was looking for the Ark of the Covenant. I forget what movie that was. I think it was a movie titled something to that, Lost Ark or something. I can't remember right now, but y'all know what it is. Y'all can look it up and find out. But as you can see, most of these great stories that movies that these guys make come from biblical stories. So let me keep going. Daylight, I hope your question is getting answered because this is for you.
Of stone, now the law is written in fleshy tables of our hearts. There in 2 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter. And God wrote on tables of stone, and now our hearts are sprinkled as to the Ark of the Covenant. Our hearts are the true Ark of the Covenant. What happened to this over here? Colossians 2:14. Blotting out the handwriting of rituals, ordinances. The rituals, there's two handwritings, one on our hearts, one on tables of stone. Which one do you think is blotted out? Certainly not our hearts, because we're spiritual Israel.
Okay, Hebrew Israelites. Now, for y'all that don't know what spiritual Israel means, that means you carrying the word of God in your heart. You living day-to-day basis with the word in. Do not steal, do not kill, love your neighbor in your heart, not what's written. Let me continue.
Colossians 2:14 says, all the rituals are blotted out. Now, we're the temple of God. We are the candlesticks there in Revelation, the 1st chapter. We being many are one bread and one body. We're the showbread. The prayers of the saints is this altar of incense that go up to God as a sweet smelling savor. All of this, then you have the brazen sea, held 2,000 baths for the priest to wash every morning, and you have the brazen altar. These are made of beaten gold, these of brass. Now, so Aaron and his sons do this high priestly work in here. Only one priest could go in once a year into the Holy of Holies and sprinkle the Ark of the Covenant with the blood of a goat, not the blood of a lamb. The blood of a goat was sprinkled there, and Christ became a goat in our place or for us. Now, all right, so they're in bondage. This is where we are. We're bringing them out of bondage. We're getting Israel, and everything in the Old Testament is a picture of us. God picked Israel to be his people. Why? Because he wanted to. That's amazing. Go over here to Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter. Look here. Now, Deuteronomy is the word. Deuteronomy comes from two words, duo, nomos. Duo is two, or D-E-U-O. Duo, a duet, is two people. This means second, nomos, Nomos is the Greek word law. It means the second law. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. This is called Torah to the Jew. We call it Pentateuch. Pent means 5. Pentateuch means 5 books. So this is the first 5 books of the Bible, and the laws that are in Numbers and Leviticus and Exodus, a lot of them are repeated in Deuteronomy because it takes.
So the first 5 books of the Bible is like basically the halakha, the Torah, or whatever they call it. You know what I'm saying? But it's basically what the Jews today follow, the first 5 books, the Old Testament. So let me keep going.
2 witnesses to declare the law of God, and we find that over in Numbers, the 35th chapter. We find that over in Deuteronomy 17, Deuteronomy 18, and Jesus stands and tells the Pharisees, it's written in your law, the testimony of 2 men is true. It takes 2 witnesses in a Jewish court for something to be verified and be legal. And the Bible says that. Now, so Deuteronomy means second law. Look over here in Deuteronomy 7. Deuteronomy 7. Now, we don't choose God, He chooses us. He says in John 15:16, telling the apostles, you have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you that you should go and bring forth much fruit. You can't choose God. You can't choose God and be born again. The Bible says there's none righteous, not one. There's none understandeth. There's none that seeketh after God. Well, if nobody seeks God, how's a man going to be a believer? God has to put it in your heart. Do you have to be a believer? Yes. Well, where are you going to get it when you're dead? And like I say, how dead is dead? Well, it's dead. That's how dead it is.
So let me pause it right there. So okay, so what he's saying is like when you like believe, when you hear the word, when you hear the word, or you read in the Bible and it touch your heart, you believe what it's saying. You know right from wrong. You hear that voice saying, hey man, don't steal that, don't rob this person, don't kill that person. You know what I'm saying? You hear those voices, you know what I'm saying? Or don't sign this deal, don't sign your name on this contract, stuff like that, to that, of that nature. So that's what he mean by your God chooses you. If you hear the word and it touches your heart, you chosen. Oh, come on, man. This thing kills me with this. All right.
And what else can you say about dead? Stinking dead? Repulsive dead? Abominable dead? It's dead. We were dead in sin. Dead men can't make living decisions. If you ever come alive in Christ, He has to bring men alive. That's why John 5:21, the Bible says, Jesus quickens whom He will. Not who we will. Quicken, Z-O-O-P-O-I-E-O. That's the word quicken. Quicken comes from zoo. Actually, Z-O-O-N, but it's our word zoo.
So this is why the church is always, to call you down the altar saying accept Christ, and people do, but they don't. Nothing changes. You know what I'm saying? So it lets you know that it's not true that you can accept Christ. He has to accept you, because if you accept Christ and you don't change your ways, or you don't change something about you, period, that means you ain't hearing or you're not receiving something. You know what I'm saying? So let me keep going. Let me just keep going. I'm gonna shut up. Let me just keep going.
What is a zoo? It's a place where you go see living animals. You don't see stuffed animals. You go to a museum for that. You see living animals. This means alive. Poeo means to make. This is the word quicken. Make alive. Jesus makes alive who He wills. Goodness, people that believe in free will, how in the world can they not understand that? John 1:13, we were born. If you're born, do you come alive? Speaking of the new birth, we were born, not of blood, The word is Haima. There's no H's in the Greek. There's an H sound, a diacritical mark. It's like a little apostrophe there, a little backward apostrophe. Haima is the word blood. We're born not of blood, and it's plural. Plural. Haima, the blood comes from the mother and the father. What the Bible is saying, you're born again spiritually, not by bloods from your mother and father. Now, we used to think that the blood only came from the father back in the 1930s and 40s. Now we know the blood comes from the parents, both of them. So we're born not of the different bloods. We are born, when the Bible says He's washed us from our sins in His own blood, that's singular. That's the blood it's just the blood of Christ. So, we're born not of bloods, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. So we're born again by God's will. And we're quick and made alive. Now look here in Deuteronomy 7. Deuteronomy 7. The Lord is talking to Israel.
So in order, in order to be born again, that means you have to have been chosen from the beginning. It's called predestination. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Let me keep going.
Let's read in verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land. Now Deuteronomy was written right before Israel, right before they cross over into the promised land. Here's the Mediterranean Sea. Here is, let me erase this up here. Mediterranean Sea. And here's Israel on the eastern end of the Mediterranean. All right, and then here would be Turkey. In the old world, this was called Asia Minor. Asia Minor, not Far East Asia, but Asia Minor, western end of Turkey. Here's the Aegean Sea, and then you got Greece here, and then you got Rome over here, and you got the Strait of Gibraltar as Spain reaches down and nearly touches the tip of Africa. You got to come into that strait to get into the Mediterranean Sea. When you come on over here, here's Libya right here, Libya. And this is all Africa down here. Here's Egypt, and down here's the Nile River. Ethiopia's down here, Egypt here. And here's the Sinai Peninsula, where they wander for 40 years in the wilderness, and then they come up here. Here's the Dead Sea or the Salt Sea. Here's the Sea of Galilee on the border, and the Jordan River runs down into the Black Sea. Now, and this right here is what we call Lebanon. It's ancient Phoenicia, or it's Tyre and Sidon. And we know that Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, the prince of Tyre, married Ahab.
Okay, so so now he's getting into the well, I don't think he's going to talk about Jezebel on here, but we all know the story of Jezebel. She helped. She was part. I ain't gonna say she helped. She did corrupt Israel. You know, she had them. Well, northern Israel first. They were the ones to first, start worshiping the pagans and everything. So here we go.
Ahab of northern Israel and brought Baal and the grove down into Israel, and this is why God is bringing judgment on Israel. Well, this is the land of Canaan. The land of Canaan. And they're going to come out of Egypt, wander through the wilderness. Now, the wilderness, they're going to go to Sinai. Moses is going to get the law. And we're studying in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, how that Israel is going to wander in the wilderness. And right at the end of their wanderings, they're going to come up here north of the Salt Sea. And Deuteronomy is written concerning the last events of the wilderness, just as they're going to cross the Jordan River and come in and possess the land that was given to Abraham about 650 years before this. And this is a picture of the church. We're wandering in the wilderness of this world. Church is the word ecclesia in the Greek. Ekkllesia. Ecclesia comes from the word ek and kaleo. Called out. That's the church. It's not a building. It's even not flesh and blood. It's the Spirit of God that's birthed in us. He's called us out of this world to live godly and righteously. Well, we can't learn to live righteously unless we go through the wilderness, through trials and tribulation, and it will mold us into what we're supposed to be after we go through the trials. Now, some people say, I don't know what these trials are for. Well, you'll know when you're 70. Now, all the things that I went through for years in the music business and real estate and gospel music and the ministry, trying to rub elbows and become some famous preacher with all these preachers in the country, I didn't know why I was fighting them so and why they were persecuting me and stopping me, but God didn't want me in there. He didn't want me doing all that stuff. So God put me through all kinds of trials and tribulation and bad sickness and ailments, and I nearly died at 37, and I thought I was dying at 44, but I didn't. Now I know what it was all about. Now I know what all the trials and tribulation for. It's made me sit back and rest in the things that God has done because He's called me to do these things I'm doing. You'll learn when you get older.
So let me stop that right there too. So basically, on that note, when you going through stuff, right? It's like I said, it's a lesson. I always say this: you got to go through the lesson to get the blessing. You got to go through the lesson to get the blessing. That's the only way. Know better, do better. So it's a reason why we going through what we going through. A lot of people not supposed to be in certain. We're not supposed to try to fit in with certain people. We're not supposed to be part of a certain world, a certain clique group or whatever. We supposed to be doing, you know, what the word say do. And a lot of us don't understand the word. We're not being taught right. It's not being explained to us correctly. So we kind of, wither off, and then we'll come back again. Like I said, if it's meant, if you are chosen, you will come back, and then you will find the truth. So this is what I found, over the years, just on YouTube, and I came across this pastor, and ever since I've been rocking with him. So let me keep going.
You may not understand it now, but you will. Now,
And he's
Deuteronomy is written as they're crossing, just before they cross the border, to repossess that land that was given to Abraham around 2100 BC. Moses is leading them out around 1447 BC. It's a long time. In fact, the difference between Moses and Abraham was further than me back to Christopher Columbus. It's about 125 years before Christopher Columbus. That'd be the distance between Moses and Abraham. People think because Moses and Abraham both were in the Old Testament, they must have lived about the same time. That's like saying me and somebody long before Columbus had even been born lived about the same time. They were a long ways apart. Abraham was the great patriarch and father of the Jews through Shem, the son of Noah. Now, let's read this. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land, they're just about to enter the land of Israel, whither thou goest to possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee. Now, God's going to cast out the nations. Why doesn't God send Joshua in there and ask him, say, we're going to sing Just As I Am, and ask you to accept God as your personal Savior? God doesn't love them. He don't want them. People say, God wouldn't be that cruel. Yes, He will. What are you talking about? He doesn't love everybody. He loved His wife, the church, the called out, and gave Himself for her, nobody else. He loved Israel. And who is Israel? Those who are circumcised with the heart. It don't have anything to do with color, skin texture. It doesn't have anything to do with lineage. Jesus told the Pharisees, I know you're of the seed of Abraham, but he's not your father. If he were your father, then you'd do what I tell you. Jesus was the seed of Abraham.
Okay, so let me pause that right there. So this is just for the black Israelites. So as you can see, there is no color, and Dr. Claude Anderson has always said this. He said color didn't come into the play until about the 14th century or the 15th century, when the Pope said, "Hey, these are the people that are not of Christian belief, and they're different." It was used to justify slavery, basically to enslave the dark man, the black man. So let me keep going. So yeah, the lineage don't mean nothing if it's not in your heart. You get what I'm saying? So you could be a Hebrew Israelite, you could be a regular Israelite from Israel. You could say, "Wow, Abraham is our father," whatever. But if you're not doing the work of Abraham or Christ, because Christ said, if you're doing the work, if you're Abraham's descendant, then you would do what Abraham has done. And a lot of us are not doing that, and that's including the people over there in Israel. So this is basically the history of Israel that I'm sharing with you guys. So if y'all want to, y'all can check this video out. Excuse me. Just go to Grace and Truth Ministry, and he got it right there. So y'all could be able to click on it. Grace and Truth Ministry. So let me keep going, and we're gonna finish this up.
And I cast out many of the nations before thee, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than you. Even though they're mightier, I don't love them. I want you to cast them out, kill them, do what you have to do. People say, God wouldn't kill anybody. You are kidding, aren't you?
Says it right there.
By the way, Jesus is the God of the Old Testament. He said so. That's amazing, isn't it? He said so repeatedly.
Yep.
Jesus was talking to the Pharisees in the 8th chapter of John. And he says to the Pharisees, who are, they say, we're of the seed of Abraham. To be a son of someone, you have to be doing the will of that person. He told the Pharisees, he said, your father's the devil. The works of your father you will do. I know Abraham's your seed, but he's not your father. To be a father to someone, you have to teach them something, and they'll be obedient to it.
See,
according to Scripture.
I just said
Jesus is standing in front of the Pharisees, who were the most religious people. They were supposed to be the keepers of the law. Jesus said so. And he's standing in front of the Pharisees. He said, Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it. And they went, you're not even 50 years old, and you've seen Abraham? And he said, before Abraham was, I am. They would, who? You call yourself God, are you? They picked up stones to kill him. You see, Jesus called himself the I am God of the Old Testament that led Moses and the children of Israel through the wilderness and led Joseph. Because when the Lord told Moses in the 4th chapter of Genesis, he said, you go to Pharaoh and you tell him, let my people go. Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And you tell Pharaoh, if he refuses to let my son go, I will kill his son, even his firstborn. And by the way, Moses, I'm going to harden his heart, and he will not let the people go. Now, what kind of a chance did Pharaoh's son have? None. You mean God would kill somebody intentionally? Yes, he will. The God of the Bible is not the God these preachers preach about in America. He's a fearsome.
Yep. Excuse me. Once again, it says the wages of sin is death. So that means he's going to kill you. You running around here doing evil stuff. You will die. You will not live your days out. A disobedient child does not live his days out. So let's keep going.
Terrible God.
Oh, and just for the record, that's why all these rappers are dying too. Because for the simple fact, of what they putting out, what they represent, and the lifestyle that they have lived before they became rappers. So, everybody want to shoot them up and bang, bang, but guess what? You got to give encounter for a life too, and you got to give encounter for your own life. So you got to give up your own life, basically. When you take a life, you got to give one. So let's go. And sometimes it may not be you. It might be somebody you love dearly. It might be somebody real close to you. Could be your kids. Could be your mother. Let's keep going.
The Scripture says he was. And then when Moses says to the Lord, well, when I go over there to Egypt to tell Pharaoh to let the children of Israel go, what if the Israelites say to me, Who is this God that sent you here? What is his name? And Moses says, Lord, what if they ask what your name is? And Jehovah God said, you tell them, I am hath sent me. Boy, there in John 8, when Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am, he was saying, I am the God of the Old Testament. So when people come up and they say, well, the God of the Old Testament is a mean God. The God of the New Testament, how many gods do you think there are? There's one God. Thou believest there is one God, thou doest well. There's one God. There's no other God beside me. So the God of the Old Testament is Jesus. It was Jesus killing people in the Old Testament. Why didn't he kill people when he come in the New? He came to do one thing, to die for his wife. And he was manipulating the minds of these men, these Pharisees, so they would kill him. He said, no man takes my life from me, I lay my life down. Yet by the same token, how did he lay his life down? He had to manipulate the minds of the Pharisees. It was the Pharisees that killed him. He was attacking them on their traditionary law all the way from Matthew 5 through Matthew, the 23rd chapter, right before they take him and kill him. And I'm preaching on that traditionary law on Sunday night. The halakha. So,
that's what I said earlier.
Jesus is telling them, I am the I am God. So it is Jesus. God sends 4 judgments, the sword, the famine, the pestilence, and the last thing he sends is the beast to carry Israel into captivity. They are in captivity in a sense in the New Testament because Israel has never come back from the captivity. Only southern Judah, southern Israel has come back. Northern Israel has not. They're the 10 lost tribes. So, let's read this. When the Lord thy God shall deliver them from before thee. Why is God favoring Israel? Because he wants to. Our God sits in the heaven, he's done whatsoever he's pleased. When the Lord thy God shall deliver thee before them, thou shalt smite them. God says, I want you to kill them. This is Jesus saying, kill people. This is not the God the preachers preach, is it? The God that Billy Graham preaches and Charles Stanley preaches. Kill them. And utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Ooh. That doesn't sound like a fair God, does it? This is Jesus pre-incarnate before he was named Jesus. This is the I am God of the Old Testament. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Do not marry these heathens. Now this is where the KKK and all the Anglo-Israel people come up with, you're not supposed to intermarry races. No, that's not talking about that. It's talking about don't marry unbelieving people. That's what it's talking about. Don't matter what color you are, if you're black or white or red or yellow, and who you marry as long as they're a believer and you're a believer.
Facts.
Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, for, and here's the reason, for they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy you suddenly. The only reason you don't intermarry with some other people is because they're worshiping another god besides Jehovah. That's the only reason. But thus shall ye deal with them. You shall destroy their altars, break down their images, cut.
So people who, worship jewelry, cars, houses, those things, they don't have no God in them. They don't believe in no God, but they say they do. And, but you see them doing other things that they shouldn't be doing. Them the people you don't want to hang around with. Them the people you don't want to marry. Them the people you want to run from. Trust me, I know.
Down their groves, burn their graven images with fire. They're serving these tree and sun gods. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. Who made them holy? Holy means set apart, single. God made them that way. Why did he choose them? Because he wanted to. Nobody can come up with... The Bible says, having predestinated unto the adoption of children by Jesus Christ to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will. When somebody says, why did God choose the Jews? Why did he choose you? If you say you're chosen according to the good pleasure of his will. Well, I just don't think that's fair. Who art thou that repliest against God? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Why dost thou strive with thy Maker? He giveth not account of any of his matters. You going to tell God what to do? Who hath known the mind of the Lord that he may instruct him? Or who hath been his counsel? You going to counsel God and tell him what's right and wrong? No. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself. If he's chosen you, he's written it in your hearts, and you can hear and believe. If you can't hear and you don't believe, he hasn't chosen you.
Yep, that's
I
what I
don't try
just
to
said.
convince anybody to believe anything.
Stop it right there. That's what I just said a few minutes ago. If you don't hear anything in your heart, you still doing, everything wrong, and you're doing wrong, and you don't hear nothing in you saying, "Hey, that's wrong. Don't do it." Then yeah, you dead. You have no life in you. There's nothing in you. You can't be changed. You can't be talked to. No medication is gonna help you or anything. You're dead. You're bound to go to hell. That's your mission. Hey, I didn't write this. I'm not preaching this. This is what's written. This is what's said. I believe it because I hear it in my heart. I feel it. I'm not perfect, am I? No. No, not perfect. I'm not saying I do everything right. We're human, we sinners, and we're gonna make mistakes. So all we go through what we go through to not go through it again. So after the first mistake, I won't do it no more. You know what I'm saying? If I do it again, then that means something wrong with me, and I need to really evaluate myself. You feel me? So let me keep going.
If you're chosen of God, he's written these words in your heart. And you know what I'm doing? I'm just turning the light on. Click. You say, oh, I see that. I believe that. Well, do you think I made you believe that? Do you think you
Thanks.
made you believe that?
Nope.
Why is it you can talk to one person about the truth, talk to another person about the truth, and one says, I believe, and the other says, I don't? Something has to be working in them,
Facts.
doesn't it?
Has to be in you, not on you.
You're a special people unto himself above all the people that are upon the earth.
Has to be in you, not on you.
The Lord did not set his love upon you nor choose you because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people.
Yep. Facts.
Oh, reminds
Facts.
us of Matthew 7:13 and 14. Straight is the gate, and narrow is the way that leads to righteousness, and few there be that find it. Only few have the truth written in their hearts. A few. You say, I don't like this message, Jim. That's because you can't hear or see. I wouldn't waste my time listening to me. Telling you that you don't belong to God and you'll go to hell one day if you can't hear this and see it and believe it. That's what the Bible says. This doesn't sound like the God this world teaches, does it?
And I just want to say this for me, who's a sinner. You say, well, how can you believe this and that? Because I hear it in my heart. I don't, I can't explain it. I don't know why, but he's breaking it down for me, and this is the most rational explanation I can get. You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody else tell me anything. Joel Osteen, TD Jakes, they can't tell me. They never said anything like this before. When you listen to their sermons, they don't even talk like this. They talk about prosperity and money and all that stuff. They don't say stuff like this, man. So you don't know what you feeling and hearing. You hear it and you feel it, but you don't know that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because you go to church every Sunday and you looking for God to bless you with $1 million or a new car, a new house. So you're not really hearing what you should be hearing. You're not listening to what you should be listening to. You're only hearing what you want. And that's the flesh. You know what I'm saying? The flesh tells you, hey, you need that new car. And all these today's preachers do is say, hey, yeah, you tied 1,000, you sow a seed, and God is gonna bless you with this and that. And 9 times out of 10, something is bothering you on the inside. And say, hey, I'll bless you, but you got to do X, Y, and Z. And you like, nah, I can't. I don't want to do X, Y, and Z. I want to do it this way, the easy way. I want to hustle, or I want to, be a stockbroker or an actor or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to. You're not listening to what's inside you. And then there are people who's not going to hear that, so they're going to chase whatever is out there. But those of you all who hear this, you know what I'm saying, kind of just listen to yourself and kind of just stop, you know what I'm saying, and meditate and take a breather on certain things before you go out there and react to things. You know what I'm saying? Anger included. You know what I'm saying? Somebody make you mad. You know, you might hear that, man, don't do that, man. Don't, it ain't right, man. Don't go slash their tires. Don't go put no sugar down their tank. Don't go busting their windows. Don't shoot them. You know, when you hear those things, man, sit down and contemplate and think for a second, man. That's God talking to you. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't hear that voice. That's why they do what they do. That's why they commit the crimes that they commit, those heinous crimes, kidnapping, murder, you know, because they don't hear anything, and if they do hear anything, they ignore it, and then a lot of times people go to jail, and then they find religion. You know what I'm saying? So let me continue. So Daylight, I hope this answers your question, man, and it's a lot. So like I said, man, I advise you all to, you know, I might stop this early, but I advise you all to go take a look at this. It flashed on the screen where you can find it. Like I said, Grace and Truth Ministry. I think it's message number 3109. Easy to find, man. Just look it up, Pastor Jim Brown, and you'll see this. Let me keep going.
He said, you didn't choose me, I chose you, and you were the fewest. Wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many there be that go in there. Lord, are there few that be saved? The apostles asked Jesus in Luke 13:24. Are there few? He said, strive to enter in at the straight gate. For many, I said, you will seek to enter in, and shall not be able, because they're not elect. Strive is the word agonizomai. agonizomai. It's our word agonize. And that's not an invitation. That's not a choice whether you'd like to agonize or not. That is an imperative mood. Imperative is a command. If you belong to God and He says agonize entering in, you will. The agon was the arena. There it is over on the wall. That was the agon. It was the arena where they wrestled, where the lions and the bears were turned in on the Christians. Agonize. We get our word agony from that. And we are commanded to agonize over sin, over self, and say, Lord, I want to do what you want me to do. You see, anybody that has an ear to hear, he that hath an ear to hear, let him hear. Oh, that's also, by the way, now hear this, is a command. It's imperative mood every time it's written down in the New Testament. So everyone, Jesus is the same I am God that said in the Old Testament, let there be light. If He said it in the Old Testament, and there was light, if He says agonize, you will. And you'll wrestle with sin in the flesh and say, oh God, help me. Help me to get over myself. Help me get over my ways. Help me get over my doubt. Now, where we are, we're working our way. Let's go back over here to Exodus. We've worked our way up to Exodus, the 17th chapter. Here's where we are. Exodus means exactly what it says. To exit something, Exodus, we get the word exit from that. It means to leave or depart. They're leaving Egypt. We've gotten through. What happens? They have 10 plagues come upon Egypt. The 10th plague softens Pharaoh's heart. God said, I will harden his heart. You mean God has a right to harden his heart? God hardens who He wills. He said so. I will harden his heart. He will not let the people go. Now, Moses, I'm going to put him through 9 plagues. In the 10th plague, I'm going to kill the firstborn in every... God says, I'm going to kill. Who is this God? Jesus. People say, I like the...
So it was 10 plagues, but the movie I think only showed maybe about 3 or 4. So let's keep going, just so y'all know.
Jesus of the New Testament. I don't like the God of the Old Testament. The God of the Old Testament is Jesus. He said so. And He said, I'm going to kill every firstborn in Israel that doesn't have the blood of a lamb over the doorpost of their house, splattered all over it. And I'm not going to tell the Egyptians this. And they're not going to hear it because they're not mine. I'm not calling them, I'm calling Israel. And this is the 10th plague. It's called the Passover. And when I see the blood on the doorpost, now our hearts are sprinkled. When I see the blood, I will pass over you. By the way, a blood baptism was a death. It was a martyrdom. And we have to take our cross and die daily. That's about blood baptism. Jesus says to James and John, can you be baptized with the baptism I'm baptized with? He's not talking about, James, John, can you be dipped in water? And John says, well, I'm allergic to water, Jesus. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about a death.
So die daily doesn't mean kill yourself every day. It means kill your sin, whatever your desires are. You have to kill them every day, and it's hard for human beings to do that, because we accustomed to certain things in life. We grew up from the hood, in the hood, or wherever. We got these entertainer influences and all kind of stuff. So it means not kill yourself literally, not go and you can't shoot you only got one life, so you can't shoot yourself every day. You can't kill yourself every day, but you can kill your sin, your lust or whatever you got going on. You that's what it means to die daily and carry your cross. You know what I'm saying? Stop what you're doing and preach the word of God, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So let me keep going. It's interesting.
He's not calling the Egyptians. Well, they leave Egypt. This is in the 12th chapter of Exodus. 12. And 13, they have some instructions as they leave. 14, they get to the Red Sea. And God's got Moses and the children of Israel up against the Red Sea, and he's got Pharaoh's armies right behind them, and he's got a wall of fire between them, protecting them. And God opens the sea, and he brings Pharaoh and his armies into the Red Sea, and God kills them. Let me put it this way. Jesus kills Pharaoh and his armies. Jesus kills them. Because he is the God, isn't he? Well, he takes them down into the bottom of the Red Sea. In that 14th chapter, the Bible says, God pulled the wheels off their chariots. Whew, is that a cruel God? God is cruel to everyone that doesn't belong to him. In fact, there's an outer man and an inner man in each one of us. And the outer man is self and serves the law of the flesh, Paul says in Romans 7. And the inner man serves the law of God, and that's Christ in you, the hope of glory. And that has to be birthed in you by God's will, not by yours. Of his own will begat he us. So you've got this outer man that has to die. And God takes them down in the Red Sea, pulls their chariot wheels off, and kills them. And that was Jesus that did it. Before he was called Jesus, when he was called Jehovah God. Oh, by the way, I am. Jesus called himself I am. And Moses says, who will I say sent me? He said, you tell him I am has sent me. Jehovah means self-existent. Self-existent. Now let me give you this very slow. To exist means to be. To be. If you exist, you be, don't you? You're a being. A person that is a being exists, doesn't he? Huh? And we have to be born again to exist, don't we? Well, let me give you one more time the being verbs. Learn these in about the 10th grade. Be, is, am, 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 am. Am is the form of the verb to be or to exist. Be is, am, are, was, were, being, been, have, has, had, do, does, did, shall, will, 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 will. If you can will anything without God putting the existence in you, if you can, shall, will, should, would, may, might, could, must, can, could. Should, would, may, might, must, can, could. If you can come into existence by your own will, then you are Jehovah.
And another thing I want to say, for those of you all who's not good at English, you will learn some English watching him. I'm telling you, he's gonna give you everything he's got, man. He put everything, best foot forward on this. So I'm telling y'all will enjoy this. Those who believe, those who want to know the truth, those who hear it in their heart, those who just want to know. Hey, between him and Pastor Geno Jennings, both are good. I listen to both of them. They're the only two I really listen to. Both of them are really, really good. Pastor Brown, he's more of the guy on the board. He breaks it down. He gives you the English language, the verbs, the adjectives, and Geno Jennings, he mostly just, he interprets the Bible very well. He's man, he it's like it's self-explanatory, basically. But let me keep going.
You're self-existent. If you can walk down an aisle, if you can say, I accept Christ, I want to pray this prayer and bring myself alive. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So Jesus is the I am, the to-be God of the Old Testament. This is Jesus doing these things here before he was called Jesus. He is the God of the Old Testament. He said he was. He said, I am the bread of life. I am the door of the sheepfold. I am the bread that's come down from heaven. Anytime he would say, I am, all these I ams, he was calling himself Jehovah. So, as we study this, I want you to understand, when the Lord spoke to Moses out of the burning bush, that was Jesus pre-incarnate. When Moses saw his backside and he said, you can't see my face, that was Jesus pre-incarnate. And he had picked out a people just like he's chosen us. But everybody wasn't Israel that was in Israel. Because as they're wandering through the wilderness, they're murmuring against God. And God says, I'm going to have to kill off all these unbelievers. So he says, well, I'll get to that later. He didn't say that, but I'll get to it later. All right, now, let's get back over here. Let's get back over to the 17th chapter, where we are. 14, they're leaving Egypt. 15 is the song of Moses praising God. Moses and the children of Israel in the 15th chapter, Song of Moses, they're praising God for killing Pharaoh in the 14th chapter. That don't sound like the God the people of the world talk about, does it? People say, I like Jesus, he's nice and easy. No, he's not. In the 19th chapter of Revelation, he's coming back with eyes as a flaming fire, taking vengeance on all those that know not God, that obey not the gospel. Isn't he? I got a picture of, this has been drawn over here. This is the Jesus that I serve, not that pansy these guys talking about in these churches. There. Eyes as a flame of fire, upon a white horse, sword coming out of his mouth, which is the word of God, upon his thighs written, King of kings and Lord of lords. That's the real Jesus. Not this sissy. Not that pansy, I'm Jesus. That Jesus is the other Jesus that Paul spoke about. Another Jesus, another spirit, another gospel. Jesus I serve is a great and a mighty general. He's going to come back and conquer the world. We're not going to have any economic problems when he comes back, any hunger problems. He's going to fix everything, and he's going to send most people to hell because many are going into the broad way. Now, so he is the to-be God. So I'm going to keep reminding you, I'm glad I put this up here because I'm going to keep reminding you of who this God is. I'm going to keep reminding you this is Jesus all the time I'm teaching through this. Okay? Now, we've come up to the 16th chapter at their first encampments, and we see there the episode of manna from heaven in 16 and 15. And the children of Israel murmur against God for water in the end of the 15th chapter, and they want bread in the 16th chapter, and God gives them manna in the 15th verse, and when they go out there to look at it on the ground, this round thing, they go, what is it? And God says, that what we'll call it. We're going to call it, what is it? And that's the word man in the Hebrew, or manna. We're going to call it, what is it? Now, in the 17th chapter, let's read. And all the congregation of the children of Israel, all these 2.5 million people that are following Moses, journeyed from the wilderness of sin. We don't know exactly where this wilderness was. Here's the Mediterranean Sea. Wilderness of sin is somewhere up in here. If this is the Sinai Peninsula, if Mount Sinai is down here, and there was a chain of mountains, and the mountains were called Horeb. So whenever you read Horeb, it's just another name for Sinai. It's believed that Sinai was one of the highest points of the Horeb Mountains. Now, wherefore people did chide with Moses and said, give us water that we may drink. We've already gone through this last week. And they said, you brought us out here to kill us, in verse 3. And God tells Moses to smite the rock. Now, we've already talked about God telling Moses to speak to the rock over in Numbers 20. But he told him to smite the rock here. And Moses gets mad at the people in Numbers 20 because they're murmuring against God, saying, God brought us out here to die. Here he conquers the greatest army in the world. How many people in the church today gripe, well, I'm come to this point, and God's got my life messed up. My wife left me, my husband left me, and I don't have any money to live on, and I'm this and I'm that. Have you ever tried going over to a third world country and living? Would you like to keep complaining? I've got people in this church that have so many problems, so many health problems. Just lost Larry Hill. Most of you didn't even know he was sick. He's been deathly ill. When you look around a little, you find somebody that's having a harder time than you are. Just look a little. Well, we're not going to talk about that right now, okay? All right. And then Moses smites the rock, and they have water. Let's get on with this. And he called the name of the place in verse 7. We've already preached last week on smiting the rock. And of course, Christ is our rock, and he was the rock according to 1 Corinthians, the 10th chapter. He was the rock in the wilderness. That's figurative language. We're in the wilderness of this world. God has called us out of this world. We are spiritual Israel. Those of us who have God's word written on fleshy tables of our hearts. And he says that over and over again in the New Testament. In Romans 8, Hebrews 8, Hebrews 9, Hebrews 10, he's talking about written in.
Okay, so now if y'all want to be black Hebrew Israelites, then it has to be written in your heart. It cannot be, you have to be doing the work. It cannot be from the lost tribes and the tribes of the tribes. Spiritual Israel, man. So it's okay to be a black Hebrew Israelite. It's like he said, if it's not spiritual, if it's not written in your heart, if you're not doing the work, you're not following the commandments, then all that 12 tribe stuff doesn't even matter, man. Let's keep going.
In our hearts. 2 Corinthians, the third chapter. He called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, which means bitter, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? Now, they're murmuring against God, so God brings an enemy against them. The first people to attack the children of Israel, the first people are the Amalekites. And they are the people of Amalek. Now that has a lot of significance when we get into 1 Samuel. There's all kinds of significance. Anytime you see a name, always go back to where you first found it. They named all of their cities after their own names. That's what the scripture says. They thought their houses would last forever. Just like we name our cities after somebody in our history. Washington, D.C. I wonder who that's named after. Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Georgia. Columbus, whatever. All named after Columbus, the man who supposedly discovered America, but he didn't. Eric the Red discovered America, and he didn't land in America. He landed in San Salvador. Now, it's amazing what we teach our children in school, isn't it? Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, choose us out men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill and the rod of God in mine hand. Now here's Israel, about 2.5 million people. No army. Don't know how to fight. The Bible says they didn't know how to fight in Judges the 3rd chapter when they come into the land. God says, I'm going to put you under the rule of judges, and I'm going to turn you over to all of these princes of Canaan, all these pagans, and I'm going to have them fight you until you learn to fight. It says that in the 3rd chapter of Judges. So Joshua did as Moses had said and fought with Amalek.
Now, don't that sound like us? Don't that sound like black people? That's kind of like us a little bit, right? We got all these different things coming at us. We got racism, we got socialism, and all these politicians. We got all, murder and, things that are going on in our community. We got all these things that we're fighting against. So we're gonna keep being faced with these things until we learn to fight. So we have to learn to fight, stick together, and change laws, man. That sounds just like us, what we going through right now at this moment. We getting hit with all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? We went from number 2 to number 4. You got the immigrants that's ahead of us now. You got the Chinese that's ahead of us. So you got all these things just keep coming our way. So we got to learn to fight. That's the bottom line. We got to learn to fight.
And Moses and Aaron and Hur went up on the top of the hill, and it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. I don't know exactly what that's about. Perhaps so the people could see Moses and be of good cheer. And this has to be, and then he says, but Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon, and Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited or made the people of Amalek uncomfortable by hurting them. And his people with the edge of the sword. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heaven. They are the first people to attack Israel, and I won't put up with it. Israel has nothing to provoke them. So God has put their name down in his book. I'm going to eliminate these people. You attack my people unprovoked for no reason. And Moses built an altar and called the name Jehovah Nissi, for he said, because the Lord has sworn that the Lord has sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Remember Amalek. First of all, let's go look back and see who Amalek was. Look at Genesis 36. Genesis 36. Let's see who he was. Genesis 36. 36, verse 9. These are the generations of Esau. Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. Where did the descendants of Esau live? They lived in Edom. I'm glad my wife sits down here on the front row. She said when she started sitting on the front row, she learned. She said Edom. And where was Edom? Here's Israel. Right under here, right under the Dead Sea. This is Edom, or Mount Seir, and their capital city was Petra. And this was the descendants of Esau. God says, Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. Loved is the word agape. And that definition, you got two words that have been translated to love. You have the word phileo, which means have an affection for, to like. I like cake. I like God. I like to drink and get drunk. I like drugs. I like my wife. I like my dog. I like my boat. I like anything. You can like anything you want to like. That's a natural affection. Agape has to do with a king and his subjects. Both these words are translated in L-O-V-E. In fact, sometimes agape is translated charity. It's anytime you see charity, it's agape, or the word love. So agape is walking in the commandments of God. That's a relationship that fathers had for their subjects, that kings had for their children or their subjects, father had for his family. This is love, 2 John 6, that we walk after his commandments. This is agape, that we walk after his commandments. Now, where was I? Oh, okay. All right. He said, Jacob have I loved. Who did God give the commandments to? He gave them to Israel. And what was Israel's name before it was called Israel? Jacob. So God gave his commandments to Jacob, and he gave none to Esau. He didn't love Esau less. He gave none to Esau. Since when did Esau get, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt have no other gods before me? Since when did they get that? Moses went up on the mountain in the 19th chapter of Exodus and comes down in the 20th chapter of Exodus and says, here's the plates of the Lord, Israel. Be sure to take some of these over to Esau. He didn't say, hey, send a runner over there. Send a Western Union over there. Take these over there to Esau. No, don't take any to Esau. All right. Now, let's keep reading here.
So if you know the story of Jacob, and you hear Jacob tricked his father, and people say, well, why God still loved him more than Esau? Well, Esau was the type of person that was willing to, what's the word I'm looking for? Compromise his religion for food, fame, jewelry, and those kind of things. So God saw this before he was even born, because it says he loved Jacob and hated Esau before either was born. So he saw this in Esau, and then as you read it, when they're born and when they come to, that's basically what's going on. So you can read it. You can read this story for yourselves, guys. I ain't got time to go into all of this. Stuff can be found in the Bible. Just open it up, blow the dust off of it, because I know some of y'all got your Bible sitting up, locked up away somewhere. Go steal your grandma's Bible or something, but just go read it for yourself.
36. These are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau; Reuel, the son of Bashemath, the wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zephah, Gatam, Kenaz. And Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek. He's one of Esau's descendants, isn't he? When the Bible says all Scripture is given by inspiration from God and is profitable, it means these chronologies, these are profitable. Now we know where the Amalekites come from, don't we? Esau have I hated. And God said, I'll put enmity between these two. Now, let's go over here to now. Gosh, I got so many places to go. Look over here in Numbers, the 14th chapter. Numbers 14. I'm not going to get to all this tonight. I want to get to Numbers 14. Now, Numbers, let me tell you again. Numbers. All right, let me erase this and put this on the board again. Numbers is not a hard book. It sounds like all these numbers. Well, it is, but it's not hard. Genesis, Adam to Joseph in Egypt. Exodus, this is where Moses is leading the children out in the 12th chapter. And then they leave Egypt. They get to Sinai in the 19th chapter. Moses brings the 10 Commandments down in the 20th chapter. And then they are at Sinai getting the law of God from the 20th chapter of Exodus through Leviticus, Now, Leviticus comes from the word Levi. Jacob's sons were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, the third born, and all the Levites, or the priests of God, will come out of Levi. So Leviticus, this is the law of the Levites, the priests that are going to do the work around the temple. Leviticus, Numbers. Well, they get to Sinai in the 19th chapter, and they're there through the 10th chapter of Numbers. Now, Numbers is about, here's Egypt, and here's the Sinai Peninsula, and here's Israel. Black Sea, not Black Sea, Salt Sea, Dead Sea, and it's a Dead Sea because it's just like Salt Lake. You can lay down in the Dead Sea and you can float. Because it's salt, nothing lives in it. That's why it's dead. All right, just like Salt Lake City. All right, not like Salt Lake City, but like Salt Lake out there. Now, you can stick Salt Lake City right down in it, can't you? Yeah. Now, Numbers is about when they leave Sinai. It's all the events from Sinai till they start to cross the river. Numbers is about all their adventures when they get to Kadesh Barnea and they go in there to look at the Anakims and they murmur against God. God puts them in the wilderness for 40 years so he can kill off all the unbelief in Israel. And God's going to kill these people in the wilderness. Jesus is going to kill them. I like to put it that way. People say Jesus wouldn't kill anybody. You think not? He called the Pharisees children of hell. People say he was a nice Jesus. You had never read the 23rd chapter of Matthew, have you? He called them snakes. He said, did you steal women's houses, widows' houses? You think he was saying, O generation of vipers, you compass the land to make one proselyte.
Also, history states that the Jews enslaved some of their own people at that time too, during the time of Nebuchadnezzar. Hopefully, I don't know if he speaks about that on this one, but it's out there. Hold on, let me just keep going and see.
After it's made you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. No. I'm a gentle Jesus, meek and lowly. No, he was saying, you children of hell. Doesn't sound like the Jesus of the preachers, does it? This Jesus that's killing people in the Old Testament don't sound like the one that preachers are talking about, does it? People say, how much time do I have? They don't say that. But how much time do I have? Huh? 21? 31. Let me read something to you. Dave's dad, Charlie, brought this book. This is by Vincent Bugliosi. He was a prosecutor in Los Angeles. Mr. Bugliosi was a brilliant prosecutor. He prosecuted Charlie Manson. I remember when it was going on, I was kind of a fan of his. He's got this divinity or doubt. And I started reading it last night and I started marking it up. This will show you how a man can be brilliant in the world and not smart in the Bible at all. He's not studied the Bible. He knows nothing about it. And I thought, I'll read some of this so people could understand how the world thinks about God. Because Mr. Bugliosi thinks. He thinks that God, the God of the Bible, here's Mr. Bugliosi. Here he is right here. And he's looking at the world out here, and he thinks that the God of the Bible is what the world says he is. And he says that they've read the Bible so they know what the Bible says about God, and that's not true. The world doesn't know anything about God. The preachers don't know nothing about him. So he is presuming that what the world says about God is what's true about him. So he thinks that God is supposed to be good all the time. I had my cardiologist, who is a brilliant man. Cardiologist is about 4 or 5.
And that's what most preachers do preach. They preach that God doesn't do no, well, he doesn't do wrong like we do. You know what I'm saying? He don't go out here and do all kind of wicked and crazy stuff. No, he don't. But these preachers make it seem like God never, destroyed people or killed people for their sins. But if you look at Sodom and Gomorrah, which the LGBTQ community does not want to hear at all, because, they'll throw rocks at you, they'll stone you, they'll what was the word he just used? They'll persecute you. You get what I'm saying? They'll persecute you. So just think about that. That city was destroyed. Babylon was destroyed. I mean, you read the story about Nebuchadnezzar and his descendants and what happened to them. I mean, it's proof in the pudding. So, I mean, and then in history books, they say this stuff too. So, the history books and the Bible go hand in hand, especially if you searching for the right stuff. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people be looking for the wrong answers. They searching for the wrong things. And let me just continue, man. I ain't got time.
5 steps above a regular MD. They're extremely intelligent. And my cardiologist, he'll talk, and he'll be brilliant when it comes to the heart. And then when he starts talking about the Bible, he goes, and I tell him, you're a very ignorant man. You don't know nothing. You have no business talking about the Bible. What you need to do is stick with the heart. You're ignorant. And people don't talk to doctors that way except me. And I'll tell him why he's ignorant, and he'll laugh and kind of slough it off and go on his way. But he'll do it every time I go in. And he said he likes for me to come because I break up the monotony of his day. He likes for me and Mary to go in there because we sit him down and say, sit down and be quiet. But Mr. Bugliosi is kind of like my cardiologist. He thinks that everybody has read the Bible and they know what the Bible says. And they think, and he thinks, the Bible says what Jerry Falwell says it says. When he was alive, or what Billy Graham says it says. And Billy Graham and Jerry Falwell were ignoramuses. They don't know nothing about the Bible. I can tell them, I've spent 58 years studying, I don't mean a little bit.
So for those of you who are younger and don't know who Billy Graham is, please research and Google who Billy Graham is. Billy Graham is a worldwide known, I think he was Baptist, he wasn't Pentecostal, I think he was a Baptist preacher, but he was well known. He was well known. So do your research on him too. He had passed away some years ago, but Google Billy Graham. You'll find out who he is.
Besides that, God's given me a peculiar understanding in Scripture, and I analyze it just like a mathematician. And these guys don't analyze anything. I got to read some stuff here to you, what he said. It's just astounding. I mean, I can't believe what people will say. Now, I'm going to read this to you because this is what, the things I've told you tonight, that Jesus is killing people. He kills them all through the Old Testament. I just went through and put some things down about who all he kills. Goodness. Didn't he kill all the firstborn of Egypt? Didn't he kill all of Pharaoh's armies? Didn't he tell didn't he tell King Saul in first?
Right, that part too. Right, like he just said, he just, covered them under the water. All the people that was going after the Israel during, in the Ten Commandments. Y'all seen the movie and in all the water, So how can they say, God doesn't punish or he doesn't, kill people who's out here being wicked? So that he does. Let me keep going.
1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, go to Amalek and utterly destroy the Amalekites. Didn't he say that? We've been talking about Amalek. Go down there. What did I say? Oh, 1 Samuel. Thank you, Dave. 1 Samuel. I'm thinking of first, and I just grab any book in there. All right. 1 Samuel, he says, go to Amalek and kill the Amalekites. Now, this is Jesus, who is the I Am of the Old Testament. And Saul goes down there, and when he comes back, Samuel meets him, and he says, did I not tell you? Did not God not say, go down there and kill everybody in Amalek? The men, the women, the children, the babies? This is Jesus telling him to do this. And he says, I have done the will of God. And Samuel says, what is this bleating of the sheep that I hear? B-L-E-A-T. bleat. That's the sound they make. Ah, ah. And he's sitting, that's why I tell y'all when I leave, bye sheep, and you're supposed to say bye, bye. Okay. But anyway, that's not funny. I've been doing that for 2 years or 3 or 4 or 5. Huh? I've done it every time I leave. I say bye sheep. I'm expecting you to say bye. But anyway, he says, what is this bleating of the sheep that I hear? And Saul gives one of the greatest excuses in the world that's ever been given in the Scripture. The people made me do this. I'm just the king, and I couldn't control them. And Saul had a terrific temper. He'd have done anything he wanted to do. He said, they wanted to offer sacrifice, so he brought back some of these sheep from Amalek. And Samuel said, God said, kill them. And what is this King Agag doing here? Well, that's all Saul could say. And that's when Samuel says, to obey is better than sacrifice. God doesn't need the sacrifice of these sheep. He said, kill them. Jehovah God, who is Jesus, said, kill those people. And then Samuel says, your kingdom is numbered, Saul. It's over. You have not done what God said, not in this chapter, not in the 14th chapter, not in the 13th chapter, and we'll go through that when we study the books of the Kings. You hadn't done what you've been told to do. And all of a sudden, Saul starts getting repentant. I quit. I'll be good. I'll be a good king. Saul is the tallest man in Israel. He looks like this imposing, powerful figure. The Bible says no man was taller than him in all Israel. And he gets humble as a little 5-year-old. Don't take the kingdom from me, Samuel. I'm not taking it. God's taking it. He says, there's that Agag king. Give me a sword. And Samuel walks up to Agag and hacks him to the ground. Kills him. And just cuts his arm off, cuts his head off, hacks his body to pieces. And God's in good Samuel telling him to kill this king. And people say God won't kill anybody. Jesus won't order the killing of anybody. How ridiculous. Then God says, Samuel, you go down to Bethlehem, Judah. I have chosen me a king among the sons of Jesse at Bethlehem, Judah. He goes down there. He says, Jesse, God has sent me here to choose a king among your sons. And he calls out Eliab, his eldest. He said,
This is where King David comes in at. So, Saul was the king of Israel at some point, and because of things that he was doing, he was a wicked king also. And like he said, God was taking the kingdom from him, and so Samuel had to go find a new king, and this is where David comes in at. So just keep watching.
It must be him. He's real tall. God says, I've already had one tall man. I don't need another one. And that's when he said, man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And he brings 7 of his sons to pass before Samuel. And God said, it's none of these. He said, do you have anyone else left? He said, there's the youngest, and he keeps the sheep. He said, go get him. And he tells one of his sons, go get David. And then comes the great king of Judah. Out of David will come the line of Judah, Jesus himself. You think God won't kill people? You're really, really mistaken. I got a whole list of people here that God commanded to kill. He put his approval upon Samson when he killed 30 men before dinner one day, and he killed 1,000 with the jawbone of an ass, and then he killed more Philistines, and God puts his approval on killing Philistines more than all of his lifetime when he pulled the pillars down on himself and the Philistines at his death. There in Judges. Let me read this. This is what the world thinks. This is what Mr. Bugliosi thinks. It's just astounding. I can't believe these guys. And he talks about the O.J. Simpson trial. And he says, How does God, if there is a God, he talks about himself being an agnostic. He says, I can't believe this. He says the word agnostic is a relatively recent origin. That man is ignorant. Agnostic comes from the word, it is a Greek word, agnoeo. Agnoia. Or agnoia. Now, the word endings are changed depending on some character of the word. They're all a part. All these words that are in this morpheme list comes from the word gnosis, meaning to know, know. And from when you place the alpha, the first letter of the Greek alphabet, in front of a word, it negates the word and gives an opposite meaning. Agnosis or agnoeo means not to know. An agnostic is one who doesn't know whether there's a God or not. That's a Greek word, Mr. Bugliosi. Not recent origin. It's the word ignorant in the 4th chapter of Ephesians. And many other places. It means not to know. Agnostic is one who doesn't know there's a God. Don't say it's a recent word. That's ridiculous. Then he goes on to say, well, that's in Ephesians 4:18. It's the word ignorance, not knowing. When a man's ignorance, that can be temporary. That means he don't know. Stupid means he can't learn. It's the word ba'ar in the Hebrew. It's the word alogos in the Greek. It means stupid, dull of hearing, you can't learn. It's like having the understanding of a brute animal. In fact, it's the word brutish in the Scriptures, both in the Old Testament and the New. Now, let me read this. He says, no person has been quoted more on his beliefs with respect to existence or non-existence of God than Albert Einstein. So he's going to give respect to Albert Einstein and say, Einstein wrote a letter to A. Berkowitz and said, my position concerning God is that I am agnostic. Now, am I going to get my authority from a brilliant man in this world? The Bible says, 1 Corinthians 1:26, not many mighty, not many wise in this world. Was Einstein wise in this world? Oh, he's brilliant. Not many noble are called. Not many kings, not many princes, not many generals, not many premiers, not many presidents, not many rulers of corporations are called. And God's going to take the base things of the world to bring to naught the things that are. He's going to take the agones things of the world, A-G-E-N-E-S. Comes from the word gene. Placing the alpha in front of gene translates agones. It means no noble bloodlines. He's going to take nobodies to bring down somebodies. I don't trust men because they are brilliant in the world. Einstein, if he was agnostic, he had to be ignorant when it came to God. Now listen to what Mr. Bugliosi says about this Simpson case. How does God, if there is a God, permit such horrendous and terrible acts to occur? He doesn't permit it, he ordained it. What does Isaiah 46:10 say? He's declared the end from the beginning. And from ancient times, everything that's not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I'll do all my pleasure. Well, what is not yet done that's going to happen tomorrow? You're going to get a ticket? You're going to have a heart attack? Are you going to run into somebody? Are you going to lose your job? God says, I've declared all these things. Are you going to get killed? Win the lottery? Lose the lottery? Name it, and God says, I've already declared it. We have obtained an inheritance being predestinated according to the purpose of Him who works all things after the counsel of His own will. I appreciate Charlie bringing this because I thought he was a brilliant man in the courtroom, and he is. He had all these complaints about Marcia Clark's treatment in that court, but when it comes to the Bible, he's just like my cardiologist. He is an ignoramus. I can't believe he would say the things that he says. Let me read this. If there is a God, Ecclesiastes 3:14, 14 says, I know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Forever is the word olam. It means it always has been, it always will be. What do you think God is? You think God's impressed with the 230 IQ? How many point 00994? What's God's IQ?
All right.
It just amazes me. Deuteronomy 32:39. What does God say? I kill, I make alive, I wound, I heal. Who holds?
All right, let me just pause it right there real quick. Sorry, guys, I had to go get something to drink. I was choking a little bit, trying to clear my throat. But anyway, so a few minutes before I got up, he said God uses the nobodies to take down the somebody. So that's why no matter what Charleston White says or how he says it, it's kind of like this nobody. Now, whether he chasing fame or not, that's a whole different ball game. Chasing clout, whatever it's called. But here it is, a nobody. Was a nobody for a while. Like you said, I've been doing the work 10 years. I haven't got no recognition. I've been doing Facebook. I've been doing this, doing that. And nobody noticed me until I started talking all this crazy talk, and then everybody got something to say to me. So it's a nobody that's out here trying to destroy or destroying or bringing awareness to the somebodies, to the industry. So if we're the nobodies, then let's bring the awareness of what's going on about the somebodies. You know what I'm saying? Let's try that. Let's do that, and let's see what happens. You know, I might have to agree with the Hebrew Israelites as far as maybe we are chosen to do certain things. You know, maybe we are, but I just don't believe we're Hebrew Israelites. That's over with. You know what I'm saying? We're spiritual Israelites. So, I don't know. You know, I can agree with certain things, but not all things that they say and teach. You know what I'm saying? But if we are the chosen people, let's leave the 12 tribes out and just do what we supposed to do. Let's expose the somebodies.
The keys of death in the Revelation, the first chapter. Jesus said, I hold the keys of death. When people die, Jesus is there. I don't care if it's a serial killer, what it is. You know what's
It's
wrong with
deep.
people? They just don't
It's
believe
real
the
deep.
God of the Bible. They figure out who they think God is, and they think God is who they think He is. They don't think Jesus would kill anybody. Well, we showed He did. Then He says, how could God, all good and all just, according to Christian theology, permit the person who murdered Ron and Nicole to go free? He didn't permit it. He ordered it. You say, I don't understand that. You don't have to understand. You know why you don't understand it? Because Isaiah the 55th chapter says, my ways aren't your ways, and my thoughts aren't your thoughts. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways and your ways, and my thoughts and your thoughts. He's saying, you can't think like I think, so don't go around saying, I think. I just don't think God would do that. He says, I did. What do you mean I won't do that?
Right.
He will do that. He says, how could God, an all good God, God is not all good. My doctor said to me, well, my cardiologist said one day, isn't God a benevolent God? I said, not to everybody.
So let me give you an example of what he's saying, right? So some years ago when Saddam Hussein was alive, when he was living, he tried to rebuild Babylon, right? He tried to do like a replica of Babylon, and he didn't finish. He didn't complete it because God say there's nothing. There will be no more Babylon. You will not build another kingdom of Babylon on this land. There's nothing here. So when he was killed, we thinking it's a government thing. Obama, the military, whoever was the president at that time. We thinking it's something they doing to keep the peace, to stop the wars from breaking out. And so now I think about it, I say, wow. I say, well, maybe if Saddam wouldn't have tried to rebuild Babylon, he might still be alive. Who knows? But because he's sitting there trying to, you can look it up too. You can look it up. They got the replica, some parts of it, but nobody else went out there to try to finish what he started. So it lets me know that this book is real, that this Bible is real. Because if they didn't believe that, then why nobody's finished building Babylon in Iraq, Iran, wherever it's at? You know what I'm saying? Iraq. I think it's Iraq. You can look it up. It's Iraq. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, look it up. You know what I'm saying? It'll tell you what Babylon used to be, where it was at, and what it is today. And I believe it's Iraq. So I believe that's where Saddam Hussein lived, and he tried to rebuild it. And yeah, matter of fact, Iraq I think is right off the Euphrates River, because that's where Babylon was at. Babylon was built along the Euphrates River, so that's over with. The Euphrates River is drying up. Look it up, people. Pay attention. Just pay attention to what's going on.
I said it immediately, boom, like that. Not to everybody he's not. He loves his wife, the church. Well, isn't God good to a man who gives him $68 billion like he's done to Bill Gates? No, $68 billion is too much money to repent of. That's the worst thing that God can do to a man. You can't repent of $68 billion, can you? No way. Huh? Yes, sir. They suppose gain is godliness. They've legalized gain as godly. How can an all good God and all just, according to Christian theology? I put that in quotes, according to Christian theology. That's not according to Christian theology. That's his mistake of saying, according to Christian theology, permit the person who murdered Ron Nicole to go free holding up a Bible in his hand. You think the judgment is over? You think O.J. has already been to the last judgment? God's reserving him. I wrote him a letter after that. I didn't even want to believe he was guilty, because when I first heard it, I said, boy, O.J.'s one of the big heroes. I was watching the day he broke that 2,000 yards with Buffalo in the snow, and he was running with a team that didn't have a good team, and he was great. And I didn't want it to be true. And then I found out he was beating his wife, threatening to kill her all the time. And I got thinking, well, who killed her? Who's been beating her? And I don't care whether he did or not. I wrote him, I said, O.J., if you go free, you go back to your friends and play all your games. But if you're convicted, maybe God's dealing with you where you can get on your face before God. I don't know if he ever read it. He probably got 100,000 letters. The best thing that could have happened to him was to be declared guilty so that God could crush him. Anyway, and I'm not here to argue the fact of O.J. and whether he's guilty or not. I believe he was, but that don't matter. And Nicole's mother whispered, God, where are you? And he gives a note here at the bottom. The Hebrew Bible contains 15 fewer books than the Christian Bible's Old Testament. So he's trying to discredit the Bible. But Mr. Bugliosi doesn't know that 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles was one book to the Jews. It was called the Book of the Kings. And it's 6 books to us.
So there's your answer.
He doesn't know anything. It's amazing how many educated people in the world have an opinion and they don't know anything. Then he goes on to say.
So what he's saying is those books that everybody's claims that they missing or that they didn't put in the Bible are there. These are the books. They just, you know what I'm saying, split them up, broke them up, or however they did it. But these are, you know, the missing books is what he's saying. They're there, or part of them. They're there, basically.
It's so much in here. I can't go into all this. He says, not only is there a question in my mind about whether there is a God, but perhaps more important, what type of fellow is he? We certainly know he's shy. No. Are you kidding? I've got a paper up here. I've written all these places down where he's hidden all these things from the wise and prudent. These are the secret things that belong to the Lord. That his hiding things is his glory. He don't let everybody see. He reveals himself to whomsoever he will. And when it's not revealed to you, you think he's a mysterious God. I mean, I started reading this, and as fast as I read it, I started marking wrong, 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 wrong. And this is out here probably on the bestsellers list, Divinity or Doubt, and he's one of the most respected prosecutors in America. that's ever been in America. He's up there with F. Lee Bailey and all those guys. Well, he's a defense attorney, but he's got that kind of a name. I mean, I am astounded. God can, he says, listen to this. I grew up Catholic. That's why he don't understand anything. It was inculcated in me that God was all good. That's not true. He's not good to the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. He's going to send them to hell. He's fitted them. They're vessels of wrath fitted, katortizo, fully accomplished to be destroyed. They're natural brute beasts made to be taken, born to be taken and destroyed in hell. His words are goofy. All good. Who told you?
So that means those are for the people who don't change their life around, who don't hear nothing good on the inside of them. They're naturally fitted to go to hell. Now that's a shocker. Y'all might not believe that. Like I said, I didn't write the rules. I didn't make the world. I just live in it. So, hey, if them the rules, man, I'm trying my best to play by the rules, and it's really really hard, you know. But there are things that I do hear in my heart that a lot of people don't hear. So they ask me, well, why you don't do this? Why you don't do that? For example, I've done a lot of bad things in my life. You know what I'm saying? And I've been to jail. You know what I'm saying? I've been to jail a few times. I've been to the county. I never been to the penitentiary, but I wasn't getting caught for the crimes that I was doing. It was a lot of BS, and you know what I'm saying. I really never got caught for what I was actually doing. So, for the Lord to keep me and to get me out of there, it tells me a lot. You know what I'm saying? It says a lot because I heard certain things in my heart. I heard certain things in my head saying, "Man, don't do that. Don't go there. You know, be careful. All money ain't good money. Don't take his money. Um, watch for the, this and that." And then I had people like the Dolphins. They were a lot helpful. You know what I'm saying? They were more helpful than my homies. The Dolphins looked out for me more than anybody in the neighborhood did. You know what I'm saying? So they always told me, they say, "Man, we rather buy from you. We rather deal with you because you still treat us like a human being." Now, what man nowadays do you know that treats a dolphin like a human being? So that let me know right there. I reflect back on these things, and that let me know right there, oh, it might be something in me that I need to start paying attention to, because all my peers, they never respected a dolphin in their life. They diss them, beat them up, and all kind of stuff. So I beat up a few dolphins too, but after a while I felt bad, but I couldn't show them that because it shows weakness when you out there in the streets. And when people see weakness, they prey on you, right? So I couldn't show that. I had to go in a corner somewhere and talk to myself. I had to hide my emotions from people. I couldn't let people see that this has gotten to me, that I hurt this man or put this man in the hospital or possibly could have killed this man. So I had to go in the corner to fight with my conscience, and you know what I'm saying? And that wasn't a conscience. That was God I was fighting with, because I knew it was wrong what I was doing. Just to throw that out there for y'all that, you know, don't know, to think my life was perfect. My life was never perfect. I did some things, but to hear someone say that to me, to hear a person walk up to me and say, "Hey man, I'd rather buy from you. I'd rather deal with you." And then they told me, they said, "Man, look, one dolphin, he told me some game. He put some game in my ear, man. He said, when these dudes come up and buy from you, man, this is how you check to see who police. This is how you find out this and that." Man, he was putting some game in my ear. Now I don't know how many people he done told this to already, but he told this to me. So I started implementing those things when I was doing my thing, and it worked. You know what I'm saying? It kind of worked. It worked out for me. I made a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Now I blew a lot of money. I didn't invest it right like I should have. But I could have been, probably could have been the next Nino Brown if I really would have put my all into it. But because that conscience, that voice that I hear inside of me didn't allow me to go that far. You get what I'm saying? It didn't allow me to go that far, man. So I know what he's talking about. Even now, you know what I'm saying? I might want to go I would might want to go rob a bank or something. You know what I'm saying? Not saying I'm going to do that, but you get that voice in your head, man. I can go rob this bank. I can go do this, do that. But then it's another voice saying, hey, man, look, nah, you know better. And there's a better way. Don't do that, because you do that, you're gonna go this. Not like I said. Sometimes you got to go through things. You got to go through things to what I call a humbling experience. That's what I call it. I wish this thing stopped popping up. God, dog. All right, man. I took care of it already. So you got to go through a humbling experience, man. A lot of people uh they don't go through that. You know, and some people do go through a humbling experience, but then they still go back and do the same old thing over and over. So I didn't have to really go through that because I was already a humble person. You know, I just didn't go off and cuss. I would listen to you first. Now, if you start talking that jibber jabber, then yeah, we have a problem. But I was humble. I would listen to you first. You know what I'm saying? And you know, if I did take revenge on you, it wouldn't be to kill you. It wouldn't be to tell on you. You know, well, I just take your customers, or I do this and do that. You know what I'm saying? I'll make so much money under your nose, you won't even notice it. And by the time you notice it, you'll be dead in jail. That's how smooth I was moving. Anybody can tell you that. A lot of my peers that went to jail. A lot of my peers couldn't do what I did. You know, I still got one of my homies right here out here right now today, still doing the same thing and ain't figured it out. He don't have that same voice, that spiritual voice. He doesn't have that in him. He doesn't hear God talking to him to his heart. He doesn't hear that. He doesn't have the circumcision of the heart. So he's continuing to do the same things over and over, and all he's doing is getting the same results over and over and over. That's all you're gonna do is just get the same results over and over and over if you keep doing the same thing. So I'm gonna end this right here because this is not the video that I was actually looking for, but it does explain the history starting out with with Israel, the people that's actually overseas in that country. So if you want to continue to watch this, like I said, I'm gonna post the link in the description. It's Grace and Truth Ministry, message number 3109, and then he has many more. And then I'm pretty sure you'll run into that video, Daylight, and whoever decides to watch this. I'm pretty sure y'all run into that video where he goes more detail about how the Jews ended up in Germany, because when they were captive, I believe 722 I think it was 722 BC. Northern Israel was captured and taken away, and then 586 BC, Nebuchadnezzar comes and takes away southern Judah. So the tribes were split up. Of course, you got people that migrated. You know, you got people, God probably talked to these folks, say, hey man, look, I'm doing this, doing that. I need y'all to get out of here. I need you. Y'all go ahead. I deal with everybody else. You know, if you want to get a good visual of what happened back then, there's a movie on Tubi, Tubi. It's called Jeremiah, about the prophet Jeremiah. Go on there, type in Jeremiah to come up. If you want to get a good visual of the history of the Jews after Moses and what they were doing and the sins that they were committing, that's a good movie to watch. So with that being said, I'm gonna end this right here with this, but I'm gonna keep talking. So Daylight, like I said, man, from the beginning of this video, you should have a real good idea of how this all started from the beginning. Now, he went from the beginning, and he's, like I said, you want to finish the end, I gave you the information. I'm going to post a description down below. But he gave you a good description of how they became to be, why they were chosen. They were in the wilderness, what happened when they got out the wilderness. So he kind of gave you like a panoramic view of the Israel history. But there's more. There's a lot more that Pastor Brown teaches. His name is Jim Brown, Pastor Jim Brown. He teaches a lot. And he teaches you the Greek words. He teaches you how to look them up. And like I said, he's going to teach you English. So those of you all who got basic English 101, here's a place to learn certain things. So with that being said, man, I want to send a shout out to Daylight. I want to send a shout out and a hello to Pastor Jim Brown. We appreciate you. I appreciate you for sharing this information. If you do see this video, I know you probably uh, seen me smoking in the background. I'm working on that, and it wasn't marijuana, just to let you know. But I'm working, I'm working on that. And what else? I wanted to say. I just lost my thought that quick. Um, but yeah, continue to send the DVDs. As you know, my name is Jerel. Jerel Alfred. You have my information. My YouTube channel is TheRealJerel. So I'm subscribed to your channel. I'm still following you guys. You know, I love the message that you preach. I love what you stand for and what you're about. I love the teachings. So if you're seeing this, Pastor Brown, please continue to send me more DVDs. And like I said, man, I've been working. I'm working on myself, and and much love to you guys, man. Much love to the Grace and Truth family. Much love to the YouTubers, the YouTube community, the subscribers. Man, I love y'all, man. I'm going to end this video, man. I hope y'all get something out of this. You know, and like I said, continue to educate yourself. Just don't stop here. Just don't stagnate here. And you got questions, man, you feel free. You can email him. You can text him. I don't think you, no, not text. I'm sorry. You can, excuse me. You can email him. He will respond back to you. You know, he will answer your question. So I'm gonna get up out of here. I got things to do. Like I said, this video was made to Daylight, for Daylight, to answer his question. He wanted to know, you know, the history of the Jews, where they come from, and how they ended up in Germany. We didn't get to that part yet, but I explained some of it. But the video is out there. I can find it for you. I have some information, some literature that's written down that I received from Pastor Brown too. Like I said, he sent me DVDs. He mails me literature and stuff. So I have some stuff I can read to you all too. Maybe I'll do that in another video. Oh, man. But like I said, for the most part, y'all can go find this out for yourselves. You don't have to believe anything I say. You don't have to believe anything this man say. But he putting it on the board. Whatever you see there, go look it up. Go look it up. That's all I can tell you guys, is to look this stuff up, man. If you all don't believe, look it up. You're not going to believe, it's not in your heart anyway. But for those of you who still curious and just want to know if he's telling the truth or not, the information is there. Just look it up. You will see. I'm telling you, once you go from here, you're going to probably want to see more, watch more. You're probably going to want to learn more. I'm going to do another video that's going to explain the history of the popes and everything, man. So I'm you know, I'm Mr. Informed. So I'm going to try to keep y'all informed. Like I said, I'm not trying to chase clout, but this is specifically for Daylight and his ears. So with that being said, man, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know what it is. The Real Jarrell. Peace.